Well, this is a first for me. I have seen photos of this waterfall for years, but this is the first time I've actually seen it in person. And it's everything I had expected, or I had hoped. I'll show you in just a moment. I was a little concerned that there wouldn't be enough waterfall or not enough water because it is the fall, but it's because it's not a raging waterfall. And sometimes when you see trickling waterfalls, if the water level is low, there might not be anything at all, but I'm pleasantly surprised. There's quite a bit of water flow. I don't really have any perspective because I've never been here before, but it looks beautiful to me. Let me spin you around real quick and show you what we have here. And there it is there, but the star of the show is this beautiful tree that overhangs this waterfall. Let me scoot over here so you can see it a little bit better. And I've seen photos of this before, and when the sun gets high enough in the sky, it illuminates this tree right here, and all that beautiful autumnal goodness just really, really explodes and comes to life. Now, how long I have to wait here before that happens, I have no idea, because looking up there is the ridge looks pretty high, and the sun rose about maybe an hour ago, so maybe another hour or so before that light filters down here. But until then, I'm gonna go ahead and do some composition scouting and see what I can come up with. So I always do all my composition scouting with my phone. Find it to be substantially easier than getting out the big camera. Plus you're more nimble, it's easier to move around. Plus shifting from horizontal to vertical, up and down, especially not having a tripod attached to your camera. You can just move much more freely, much more efficiently, much quicker. And it's just an all-around great way to do it. So while I have time before the light gets here, this is exactly what I'm doing. And I always like to look for shapes or letters in nature. So the letter S, so any kind of S curve, I'm sure you've heard of that before. C curves, any kind of circular patterns, triangles. Triangles is the most powerful shape in the world. So I'm always looking for that to incorporate in my compositions. You can't always find it, but it's something that kind of helps me to get my creative juices flowing. So when I'm kind of sizing things up, I'm always looking to see if there are any kind of naturally occurring shapes or naturally occurring letters in the environment. So while I have time now, I think what I'm going to do is go for the most obvious thing first, which is shooting the waterfall beneath this canopy. I put on my 14 to 24 because I think that is going to be the best focus point to start with. Probably should have put my camera on up here. It's a little uneven down there. There. All right. Let's see. I really want to see. It looks like a pretty wide shot. I'm pretty certain because I'm very close to the actual scene itself. So I'm fairly certain we're going to be on the wider edge of this 14 to 24. And I was correct. That looks quite nice. I think maybe even further back might even be better. I almost feel like I'm a little bit too close right here. Plus there's a lot of this kind of dead space in the water where it's just static water. There's no whitewash, there's no rocks, there's no flowing. It looks just black, honestly. So I'm trying to figure out how to kind of minimize that a little bit because I don't want there to be a huge area of my photograph that is dedicated to just nothing. So I'm gonna spend a few moments moving around and see if there's a way to do just that. Let's see, coming up here. I probably should have taken my camera off my tripod. Mark, you were just talking about that. Now you're not doing it. There we go. I think that's starting to come together nicely. That's the beauty of getting to a location well before the light hits, is you have plenty of time to do all this kind of composition scouting. Plus it's super nice. There's actually nobody here, which I'm surprised. So I landed on something I think I like for the first composition. It's not the easiest scene to compose. I was trying to, when you photograph waterfalls, there's inevitably a top of the waterfall, and a lot of times that top is bare open sky, and a lot of those highlights shine through. I'm always trying to figure out how to eliminate that area. So I usually don't have the top of any of my waterfall photos in the frame. I always cut it off right at the top. And I wanted to do the same thing here. And the branch, coincidentally, intersects right at the top of the waterfall, which is nice. But I also want to try and keep the tree out of the waterfall as well. So trying to accomplish both of those things took a little bit of finagling, plus on this very, very uneven rocky surface. Not the easiest thing in the world, but I think I got something I'm pretty happy with. There is what I have right now. As you can see, the branch of the tree intersects the very top of the waterfall, so you don't see any of that bright highlights from the sky right there. And I was able to remove as much of the branch of the tree from the front of the waterfall as possible. I might move over just a little bit to the left to try and improve that some, but I think that's the general composition I'm gonna start with. I think that looks pretty good. It's funny, the smallest adjustments make the biggest difference. That's much, much better there. I ended up rotating the camera just a little bit to the right because I was actually cutting off a lot of the tree. And to me, I mean, obviously the waterfall is the star of the show here, but that tree is really competing for first place. I mean, it is absolutely gorgeous how it swoops over this waterfall. So you can see now I'm including much more of that tree versus before. Let me show you the first version. See how a lot of that was cut off right there? And it was more of this. This is much more exciting than this. So I wanted to include more of that. And that is where I'm at right now. And plus, see that straight up and down tree in the background? Not right at the edge, there's space between it, and it's perfectly parallel with the side of the frame, which is very, very nice. I think this is starting to look good. I tried to do as much as I could to eliminate this area of nothingness right here. This is that black water I was talking about. But no matter how much finagling I did, up, down, left, right, zooming in, zooming out, there's gonna be a portion of that in the scene. But I think that that's fairly minimized right there. And it doesn't look too bad. At least there's some leaves in the water that makes it look a little bit more interesting than just an area of just pure black water, because the polarizer is making it look fairly dark. Oh yeah, it's starting to look good. I'm just experimenting with these different shutter speeds now. As far as camera settings go, everyone loves to hear these. Let me find out what I am using here. So right now it is f11, 1/2.5 of a second, ISO 1000. It still is pretty dim, kind of in this little, not a canyon, but like it's a valley, if you will. So it's fairly dark right now. And I got a fairly small aperture, f11, trying to get as much depth of field because there is some rocks kind of leading into the frame, and I just want to make sure everything is in sharp focus. I am shooting pretty wide, so focus really shouldn't be an issue. But I'm just kind of experimenting with shutter speeds. It's pretty easy on this waterfall because it's not a raging waterfall. It's not like a river that's got a ton of movement to it. It's just, you know, kind of it's not a light flow, a medium flow. And I find that these kind of waterfalls are easier to get a good shutter speed that I enjoy. I don't have to experiment quite as much. And honestly, now I'm just kind of just waiting for the light to illuminate this tree. I hope it actually even happens. I've seen photos of it before, and just based out of the opening where I'm at, it should happen. So, oh, I also have a polarizer on as well. Not 100% polarized, but I'd say maybe 80% polarized. I know I mentioned that in the video recently, but I always spin the polarizer to where I see max polarization, to where all the reflections are removed. And then I back off a little bit because I don't want to flatten the overall image. I want there to be some reflections in there. It adds depth, it adds 3 dimension to the image, and it adds a sense of realism. So removing all of that can make your image look flat and a little bit unrealistic. It always makes things much more tense when your tripod legs are in a very unstable position. You basically have to hold on to the tripod the entire time, and you basically can never leave it. So that's exactly what I'm doing, just waiting. I'm just kind of riding the shutter speed, just kind of testing out a few different ones. Let me show you a couple of recent ones here that I did. And what I like to do, this is the most recent one I took, is to just zoom all the way in and just examine the water and make sure that the flow looks exactly like how you want it. If it's too milky smooth and it's not showing enough motion, you want to speed up that shutter speed. If the waterfall looks like it's showing no motion and it's almost, you know, froze it, your shutter speed's too fast, so you want to slow that down. But I always just examine, just kind of rotate through the entire scene, looking at wherever there is water falling, just to determine if that is the correct shutter speed that I want to use when the time is right, which hopefully will be when the light hits this tree. Yep, that is looking pretty good. I'm not used to having this much time. I probably got here a little earlier than I needed to, but I'm just kind of going over everything to see if there's any changes I want to make, because this is going to be my main composition when the light hopefully does come down here. And then I think I might move over to the side and get us more intimate details of the waterfall that's kind of falling amongst these autumn leaves and the floating in the water, maybe. But Something that I have done that I've mentioned in videos before, and I just wanted to show you. Let me see if I can run over there and get the camera where you're at without this camera completely falling in the water. Please. Oh, got it. So I mentioned this technique before, something called shooting for the crop, and this is a very, very good example of it right here, where this is really how I envision the final scene to look. I'll probably crop off a little bit right there, but I don't want to get in completely tight to exactly where I think the final image will look. I always just want to back off just a little bit, because I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to do with that branch or that part of the tree going up. I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to do on this left side here. I'm pretty certain I'm going to leave this right side alone. But if I zoom all the way in to what I think it's going to look like, I don't really have any cropping flexibility to crop out anymore. So I think I'm just going to zoom out just a little bit right there. And now I have that flexibility all the way around because I added just a little bit of space to make any of those compositional refinements in the digital darkroom if I want to. So I have found that to be something incredibly handy that I was taught over the years, and it's something that's definitely helped out my photography. This is kind of a better shot of what I was talking about earlier. That's that area at the top, or the top of the waterfall that I'm trying to avoid. But if you just drop down a little bit to something like this, that area is completely removed now. And I find that to be much less distracting, more of a focused photograph instead of whenever you have super bright areas like that up there. So something like this is what I like. I don't know if you can see that right there, but there's a little bit of light hitting that tree up there. So that light's going to start slowly, ever so slowly, making its way down to this beautiful tree right here. And that will be the moment that I am hoping it's going to happen. There we go. Now that light's starting to slowly filter through, and it's really starting to illuminate the tree above, and it really has pulled everything together. Let me spin you around. Reduce the exposure here so you can see a little bit better, but now you can really see that the leaves on that tree are starting to glow with just a little bit of light coming through the top and just lighting those up. And that is the moment that I have been hoping for. This looks absolutely beautiful. 1 second exposure, f11, ISO what? ISO 100. Nice and clean. There's the most recent version. Zoom in so you can see that water. Very nice. I normally don't go for a 1 second exposure, but I really like the way it looks in this waterfall. Very nice. So I'm going to wrap things up here soon. I'm going to take a few more exposures here and capture as much of this fall goodness as I possibly can. I just want to thank you for spending some time with me here today. If you did enjoy this week's video, if you could, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed already. If you have any questions about anything I discussed in this video, leave them in the comments section below, and I'll do my best to get back in touch with you as soon as humanly possible. Ooh, that looks good right there. And I will see you all next Wednesday. Bye.